I learned my husband was meeting his ex at a concert, so I showed up with her husband too. Olivia Carter had always been the kind of woman who carried the world on her shoulders with a quiet strength. At 32, she was the assistant manager at a modest event planning company in Chicago, juggling long hours and the constant pressure to prove herself. But no matter how busy or tired she was, her home remained her sanctuary. She had built a life with Michael, her husband of 5 years, a life she believed was rooted in love, honesty, and shared dreams. Their small apartment was cozy, filled with memories of laughter, quiet dinners, and whispered promises of a future together. Olivia's world revolved around family and trust. Never for a moment did she imagine that foundation could crumble. Wednesday evening felt ordinary at first. Just another midweek lull, the kind she endured while planning logistics and answering endless emails. Michael was home late from work at the firm downtown, and Olivia was preparing a simple dinner when her phone buzzed beside the television. It was one of those texts she wasn't meant to see. Her heart caught when she noticed a message pop up on Michael's phone. He'd left it on the counter inadvertently while grabbing a glass of water. Curious and hesitant, Olivia glanced over the screen. The message from Jess was casual, almost affectionate. "Looking forward to tonight. See you at the park lot by the concert at 7. Olivia's breath hitched. Jessica, Michael's ex-girlfriend. They hadn't spoken about her in years. The mention of a concert that Olivia knew held sentimental value for both Michael and Jessica, twisted a knot of unease deep inside her. Was this just a friendly catch-up, or something more? Her hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through the messages, finding plans detailed with the same familiarity she thought had belonged only to her marriage. The secrecy was what hurt the most. Michael hadn't even told her he'd be going to the concert with Jessica, even though she herself had wanted to buy tickets for weeks. Olivia's eyes filled with a sudden sting of tears, the room spinning as betrayal unfolded silently on the glowing screen. She swallowed hard, squeezing her eyes shut for a moment, trying to hold back the wave of panic and humiliation crashing over her. The trust she'd invested so fully in Michael now felt fragile, shattered by secrets and undiscussed meetings. Her heart pounded, not just with hurt, but with a desperate need to understand why this was happening, why he wasn't being honest with her. As the minutes ticked by, Olivia's mind raced with conflicting thoughts. She remembered their vows, promises of fidelity and transparency. Now here she was, facing the possibility that those words were empty. The image of Michael smiling at Jessica in the parking lot, touching her arm as the concert lights flickered, haunted her already. The silence in their apartment felt deafening. Olivia felt the weight of isolation descend, the realization that she was bearing this secret alone, forced to confront a betrayal she hadn't anticipated. Her hands clenched into fists on the counter. Whatever was unfolding tonight would fracture more than just a night of music. It threatened the very foundation of her life. Her eyes drifted to the calendar where she had circled the date of the concert, a reminder now of a confrontation looming ominously close. The evening she had imagined spending by Michael's side was about to become a crossroads, between denial and truth, between heartbreak and the difficult choices ahead. In that quiet kitchen, with only the hum of the refrigerator and her own uneven breathing, Olivia faced her first shattering moment. Despite everything, a flicker of resolve stirred deep inside her. She knew she couldn't just let things slip away into silence. But what would she do when the concert night came? Could she confront this humiliation? Could she find a way through the pain and deception? Or would this be the beginning of the end of everything she had built so far? The questions lingered as the shadows lengthened outside the window, and Olivia's world tilted on the edge of a secret waiting to unravel. The days leading up to the concert were a torment Olivia couldn't escape. Every notification on her phone sent a jolt through her chest. Every silence felt like a distant echo of a betrayal she was only beginning to grasp. The text threads between Michael and Jessica were clear now, not casual but deliberate, laced with familiarity and hints of a closeness that felt invasive and wrong. Olivia's mind replayed every moment she'd shared with Michael, searching for signs she may have missed, clues hidden in glances or half-spoken thoughts. At work, she forced a professional smile, but inside, the ache grew heavier. Her trusted colleagues noticed the change, how she'd become quieter, distracted. The small community at the event company, usually a source of support, unintentionally deepened Olivia's sense of isolation when questions about her mood went unanswered. Though she longed to talk to someone, the shame and confusion bound her tongue. How could she share the sting of a husband who might be sitting next to his ex, laughing in the glow of concert lights while she sat alone? Even Michael's presence became a source of tension. He was quieter than usual, avoiding her eyes, his laughter more strained. One evening, dinner was nearly a battlefield. Olivia's attempt to bring up the concert was met with evasions and vague reassurances. "It's just old friends catching up, Liv," he said, voice low. But those words felt hollow, failing not only to comfort but to deepen her pain. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. At home, Olivia's emotions churned wildly: hurt, disbelief, humiliation. The knowledge that Michael had kept this from her was a wound that throbbed relentlessly. She wrestled with her own self-worth, unraveling questions that clawed at her heart. Was she enough? Had she failed in some way that pushed him toward Jessica? The thought tormented her, gnawing at her confidence. Where did she stand in his heart if he intended to betray her trust? Even worse was the gnawing fear that this wasn't a one-time mistake. This carefully hidden rendezvous at a concert, well known to be meaningful to Michael and Jessica, hinted at something deeper. Olivia felt stripped of control, as if her world was rearranging itself around a painful truth she hadn't asked for. The humiliation was sharpest in moments of solitude, crawling beneath her skin and weighing her down when nobody was watching. During a rare break at work, Olivia found herself scrolling through social media on her phone, desperate for distraction. But the flood of happy couples and friends posting pictures only sharpened her sense of exclusion. Some nights she tossed and turned in bed, whispering silent pleas for clarity, for a way out of this torment. The looming concert date became a specter, a ticking clock counting down to a revelation she feared but couldn't avoid. Yet amid the storm of emotions, a quiet ember of determination sparked inside her. She wasn't going to let this situation define her. For all the pain, she understood that she needed to face it, not just for the sake of Michael or Jessica, but for herself. Olivia's thoughts wandered to Jessica's husband, David, a man she'd met briefly but who seemed kind. Did he know? Was he hurting the way Olivia was? The idea crossed her mind. Perhaps confronting this with his help could change the course of their tangled lives. If there was any silver lining in this chaos, it was that Olivia hadn't yet been broken. She held on to that fragile hope amid the humiliation and hurt. But the question lingered. How far would she go to reclaim her dignity? Could she find the strength to confront the truth head-on? If you've ever faced a moment when betrayal feels overwhelming, remember that it's possible to turn pain into power. And sometimes, unexpected allies emerge in the darkest hours, offering a path to healing. Olivia's story is just beginning, and what comes next will test her resilience like never before. Olivia's mind was a battlefield of doubt and determination. She tried over and over to push away the gnawing fear that the concert might confirm her worst suspicions. But as the day drew closer, the anticipation twisted tighter around her chest. She moved through her routine, toggling between moments of forced normalcy and surges of overwhelming anxiety. The idea of confronting Michael or Jessica directly felt impossible, too raw, too vulnerable. Yet the thought of doing nothing, letting the night unfold without knowing, was unbearable. She attempted to keep her distance, to guard herself against the looming humiliation. But reality kept pulling her back in. Her phone buzzed silently in her hand, and there it was again, another message from Michael's number, now seeming like a betrayal by its mere presence. The words were casual, playful, but in her mind they hammered a painful rhythm. "Can't wait to see you tonight." It was a small thing, but it felt like a sharp stone in her heart. In the meantime, Olivia tried to reclaim control in small ways. She threw herself into work, volunteering for extra projects, organizing meetings, keeping herself busy. But even at work, the shadows crept in. When she caught Michael's name in conversations, whether between colleagues or in emails, it was like fresh salt in an open wound. The divide between home and the office blurred. Her focus fractured by the gnawing distraction of betrayal. She reached out tentatively to a close friend, Emma, hoping for solace. But even there, her words were tangled in fear and embarrassment. "I don't know what to do," she admitted in a whispered message. "I feel so humiliated and lost." The reply was immediate, warm but firm. "You're stronger than you think. Don't let this define you." That small reassurance ignited a flicker of hope. Olivia knew she needed a plan, something active, something that would give her back the agency she felt slipping away. She thought of David, Jessica's husband, whom she had met once at a mutual friends gathering. If Jessica was embarking on a path that was hurting both their marriages, perhaps David could help bring light to the truth. It was a daring, vulnerable step, but Olivia decided she would reach out. She drafted a message late at night, hands trembling as she hesitated over the words. Finally, she sent it, a simple, honest note. "David, I don't know if you're aware, but I need to talk to you. It's about Michael and Jessica." The silence that followed was agonizing. Meanwhile, the concert was inching closer. The city buzzed with excitement, oblivious to the personal storm Olivia faced. She wrestled with the urge to stay away, to protect herself from whatever humiliation awaited. Yet something inside her whispered that this confrontation was necessary, not just for exposing a betrayal, but for reclaiming her own sense of self-respect. Small moments of hope emerged like lights in the dark. David replied, cautious but open to meeting. Olivia felt a tentative alliance forming, a chance to face the situation not entirely alone. The thought of having even one other person who might understand her pain gave her courage she hadn't realized she possessed. As the night of the concert approached, Olivia's fear was matched by a growing readiness. She knew the night could break her or make her stronger. But what happened when she showed up, not as a victim, but as someone reclaiming dignity? That was the question burning behind her steady gaze. The chapters ahead of her would reveal much, not just about the betrayal, but about the depths of her own resilience. In moments like these, hope may seem fragile, but it is a force powerful enough to carry us through the darkest hours. Olivia's path was uncertain, tangled with pain and betrayal, but also with the possibility of strength, solidarity, and a voice finally heard. The evening of the concert arrived, with a dense weight pressing on Olivia's chest. The city lights sparkled through the rain-speckled windows of her apartment. But inside, her world felt cold and heavy with anticipation. She had made the decision to face what was coming head-on. But now, standing before the mirror, the reflection looked fragile. Her eyes red-rimmed from restless nights, her jaw tight with a strain that seemed both emotional and physical. The quiet hum of the city outside contrasted starkly with the storm raging beneath her skin. David's message had been brief but resolute. He would meet her near the venue before the concert started. The thought of confronting Jessica and Michael filled Olivia with a strange mix of resolve and vulnerability. As much as her heart ached, she wouldn't allow humiliation to define her. Not this time. Yet despite her courage, the uncertainty gnawed relentlessly. What if the confrontation twisted in a way she couldn't control? What if her presence only confirmed the betrayal she dreaded? Arriving at the concert parking lot, Olivia spotted David waiting near the edge of the crowd. He looked tense, his face pale, under the stadium's glowing floodlights. They exchanged few words at first, shared glances laden with unspoken pain and disbelief. For a moment, the two strangers, united by betrayal, stood side by side, a fragile alliance forged from broken trust. Then, as the crowd's roar dimmed under the opening chords, they saw them, Michael and Jessica, standing off to the side, their bodies close, faces illuminated by the stage's colorful lights. The sight struck Olivia like a slap. There was no denying the closeness, the ease between them that no longer seemed innocent. Michael's laughter echoed faintly over the music. Olivia felt her throat tighten, humiliation morphing into a stark, heavy clarity. Their secret meeting, once a hidden fault line in her marriage, was now exposed in the harsh light of reality. The sting of abandonment was sharp. The pain of being excluded and replaced was deeper than she had anticipated. Yet, instead of retreating into silence or tears, Olivia felt something new, an unyielding strength rising from within. She took David's hand lightly but firmly, signaling that they would stand together, two people betrayed but not broken. The two of them approached Michael and Jessica, disrupting the moment with a calm but unmistakable presence. There were no raised voices, no dramatic accusations. Instead, Olivia's gaze met Jessica's eyes with a quiet firmness, a steady truth that needed no embellishment. Michael's face turned pale, a flicker of guilt crossing his usually confident expression. The crowd around them felt oblivious to the emotional earthquake unfolding in their midst. In that fragile pause, Olivia felt a surge of empowerment. She wasn't the woman crushed by betrayal. She was the woman who chose to confront it. The humiliation she had feared seemed to dissolve, replaced by a resolute dignity. David, by her side, mirrored that strength, a testament to the pain they both shared and their refusal to be silent victims. As they parted ways that night, the silence carried a new kind of weight. The betrayed had shown up, not just to witness the wound, but to begin the process of healing. The night wasn't the end, it was a beginning, messy and uncertain, but ripe with possibility. If you ever find yourself dragged to your lowest point by betrayal, remember, the greatest courage lies in confronting the darkness. Olivia's experience is a reminder that humiliation isn't the end of your story. It can be the first step toward reclaiming your power and rewriting your future. Sometimes, the hardest nights bring the clearest dawns. Mira sat alone on the park bench, her hands trembling slightly as she traced invisible patterns on the worn wood beneath her. The cold autumn wind tugged at her thin jacket, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside her heart. Just days ago, she had been the subject of ridicule at the office, the center of whispered jokes, harsh glances, and outright dismissal. The public shaming had plunged her into a pit of despair, deeper than she ever imagined, turning her usually vibrant world into shades of gray. Yet amidst the suffocating weight of humiliation, a flicker of something unfamiliar stirred. It was subtle, almost elusive, a faint glimmer of hope. Not the blinding optimism that paints everything in rosy colors, but a quiet acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't where her story would end. Nira's mind wandered back to her grandmother's words, spoken long ago with gentle firmness. When the world closes a door, it's often because it's about to open a window you never noticed. The thought anchored her, preventing her from sinking completely. She'd spent the past nights rehashing every bitter moment, but now for the first time, she dared to imagine another path. Maybe the humiliation wasn't a sentence, but a crucible, a harsh but necessary trial that could forge something stronger within her. Her phone buzzed faintly in her pocket, dragging her from introspection. It was a message from her coworker, Mia, the one who had always shown small acts of kindness without drawing attention. "Coffee tomorrow? Need to talk. You're not alone in this." The simple words brought a watery smile to Mira's face, reminding her that even in the darkest times, some lights didn't fade. As she stared up at the gray sky slowly yielding to twilight, Nero realized the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. The humiliation hadn't vanished. It lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake overnight. But perhaps if she embraced vulnerability rather than hide it, if she found allies instead of isolation, the truth she carried inside her could finally breathe. The truth that she was not defined by others' cruelty, but by her courage to rise. She knew the road to reclaiming her dignity and sense of self would be paved with obstacles and setbacks. Doubt and fear still whispered loudly, tempting her to retreat into silence and invisibility again. But this once, instead of fleeing, she would face the storm, not as a victim, but as a woman learning to wield her own strength. Her phone chimed again with another message, this time from someone unexpected, a former client who had overheard the rumors and wanted to share her support. Mira's heart fluttered at the thought that the truth might spread in its own way, that the whispers twisting her name could crumble under the weight of genuine kindness and integrity. This quiet network of empathy, unfolding bit by bit, hinted at a future Mira had never dared imagine, a chance to rewrite the narrative, not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever felt crushed by unfair judgment. Her breath steadied, the knot of shame loosening just enough for a seed of resilience to take root. That evening, as streetlights flickered on and shadows lengthened, Mira stood up from the bench with a tentative but determined step forward. Her story was far from over. Hidden behind the pain was a lesson waiting to emerge, a lesson about humility, compassion, and the indomitable human spirit's ability to not just survive, but transform. And as she walked toward the uncertain horizon, Mira knew one thing for certain: the hardest moments often plant the seeds for the most profound growth. In the days to come, she would discover who she truly was, beyond whispers, beyond scorn, beyond fear. If you ever find yourself drowning in the weight of unfair judgment, remember Mira's moment on that park bench, a reminder that even in the bleakest times, the first step toward healing can be found in seeking connection and embracing hope quietly but fiercely. Sometimes, all it takes is one small gesture to begin turning the tide. The next morning, Mira entered the small cafe with a mixture of apprehension and cautious optimism. Her hands clasped her coffee cup tightly, the warmth seeping through her fingers like a fragile promise. Across the table sat Mia, her eyes gentle but determined, ready to bridge the chasm of silence and pain that had engulfed Mira in recent days. "Thank you for coming," Mia began softly. "I know things have been rough, but you don't have to face it alone." Mira nodded, swallowing the lump of anxiety lodged in her throat. As they spoke, Mia shared how she had quietly noticed the unfair whispers at work, and how many colleagues sympathized but feared stepping forward. "They think silence protects them," Mia admitted, "but it just lets the lies grow." Before Mira could respond, the cafe door swung open, and a familiar figure appeared: Olivia, the very colleague whose harsh words had ignited the spiral of humiliation. The room seemed to pause. Olivia's usual confident smirk was replaced by something unreadable, a flicker of hesitation, or perhaps regret. She approached their table, hesitated, then spoke in a voice surprisingly soft and unguarded. "Mira, I want to apologize. She paused, searching Mira's eyes. "I didn't realize how much my words hurt you. I let jealousy cloud my judgment, and I was wrong." Mira's breath caught. The public apology was unexpected, shifting the atmosphere like a sudden gust scattering dark clouds. Olivia's confession stirred a complex array of emotions: relief, suspicion, even an aching hope that wounds might begin healing. Word of Olivia's apology spread quickly through their office, rippling across the social landscape like a stone cast into still water. Some colleagues expressed cautious support, others whispered doubts, but the undeniable truth was laid bare. The cruelty was not unanimous, nor was Mira's strength invisible. Days later, Mira received another surprise. A trusted supervisor invited her to a meeting, not for reprimand as she had feared, but to discuss her potential for a new project, one that recognized her talents and contributions rather than attaching her to past gossip. It was an unexpected validation, a glimmer of professional redemption she had nearly stopped believing possible. The most profound moment came when the company's CEO, known for his stern demeanor and reserved leadership, addressed the entire staff during a weekly assembly. He acknowledged the harmful toxic dynamics simmering beneath the surface and vowed to foster a culture of respect and empathy. "No one should fear judgment or exclusion here," he declared, his voice resonating firmly through the room. In a subtle but powerful way, Mira's ordeal had catalyzed change not only in herself, but within the very fabric of her workplace. Though the scars remained, they became symbols of endurance and catalysts for transformation. Yet with every moment of progress, Mira stayed grounded, aware that true healing required more than surface gestures. It demanded continued courage, patience, and the openness to forgive, not to erase the past, but to free herself from its chains. As she walked home one evening, her phone buzzed gently with a message from an old friend she hadn't spoken to in years. "Saw what's been happening. I'm proud of you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Mira's lips curved into a genuine smile. In that instant, she realized that the web of support she once thought too fragile was woven more deeply than she expected. Bonds of kindness and truth had begun to dilate, extending beyond the confines that once imprisoned her spirit. It was a profound reminder. Sometimes the most shocking acts of vulnerability open doors wider than we imagine, unraveling lies and inviting healing where only bitterness existed before. If you ever face moments when the world seems harsh and unforgiving, take heart from Mira's journey, because the courage to confront pain with honesty and openness can set in motion transformations that ripple far beyond what you thought possible. We all have the strength to rewrite our narratives, one brave step at a time. The weeks that followed felt like a slow, deliberate dance between past wounds and new beginnings. Mira moved through her days with a cautious resilience, the shadows of humiliation still present but dimming under the steady light of reclaimed dignity. At work, the atmosphere shifted perceptibly. The whispered gossip lost its venom, replaced by tentative respect and genuine curiosity about her talents. One afternoon, Mira found herself standing in front of the project team, a group she had once feared approaching, now eager to hear her ideas. Her voice, steady and clear, wove through the room, carrying with it not just expertise, but an undeniable confidence born from hardship and endurance. As she spoke, she caught the eyes of those who had once dismissed her, their faces showing surprise, then admiration. Her coworkers' reactions were a mirror to the transformation she'd undergone, not just in their perceptions, but in the way she held herself. It was as if the trials she'd endured had refined her, stripping away doubts that had once silenced her. When the meeting ended, hesitant hands clapped slowly at first, then grew louder, a ripple of genuine applause. The moment was small but monumental. It symbolized more than professional success. It was a reclaiming of voice and respect. Outside the office walls, Mira also took steps to rebuild her personal life. With the support of Mia and the reconnected friend, she attended gatherings, shared laughter freely, and allowed herself moments of vulnerability without fear of judgment. It was as if peeling away the layers of shame also restored her capacity to trust. Meanwhile, Olivia, the colleague who had earlier apologized, approached Mira one day with an unspoken request for redemption. Together, they initiated a conversation that was raw and honest, confronting the root of jealousy and misunderstanding. The dialogue was neither easy nor perfect, but it marked a turning point, a testament to the power of accountability and the difficult path toward forgiveness. At the company's monthly meeting, Mira was publicly recognized for her perseverance and contributions to the recent project success. The CEO's words resonated with added weight. Mira's story reminds us all that compassion and strength go hand in hand, and that every challenge holds the seed of opportunity. The room erupted in applause, and for a brief, shining moment, Mira felt the collective embrace of a community that had once cast her aside. But perhaps the most powerful victory was internal. Mira no longer measured herself by others' opinions. The embarrassment that had once gnawed at her confidence became a quiet reminder of how far she had come, the painful steps that led to self-acceptance and empowerment. In embracing her vulnerabilities, she discovered a strength that was indomitable. As she walked home from that meeting, Mira allowed herself a smile, not just for the recognition, but for the journey itself. The path had been steep and strewn with setbacks, but she now knew that dignity is not something given, it is something reclaimed. honed through resilience and the courage to face one's own truths. In that moment, Mira understood a profound truth. Justice is not always delivered by the loudest voice or quickest judgment, but often through steadfast endurance and the willingness to grow beyond pain. The very people who had once tried to diminish her were now quietly witnesses to her rise, a testament that true strength is both visible and transformative. If you've ever felt crushed by unfair judgment or silent amidst cruelty, remember Mira's journey. Your story is not written by the moments of humiliation, but by the strength you find in standing tall again. Sometimes, the greatest triumph is simply choosing to rise when all seems lost. Months later, Mira stood by the window of her new apartment, watching the city lights flicker like a tapestry of possibilities stretching beyond her view. The woman staring back at her reflection was different from the one who had once felt shattered and silenced. Her eyes held a serene confidence that came not from external validation, but from an inner strength forged through trials and healing. The journey from humiliation to empowerment had been anything but easy. She had confronted her deepest fears, faced the judgment that once threatened to define her, and uncovered compassion for herself where only self-doubt had lived. Each painful step had taught her not only about resilience, but about the profound value of kindness toward others and, most importantly, toward oneself. At work, Mira's influence extended beyond projects and presentations. She became an advocate quietly inspiring change, championing respect, empathy, and openness in an environment that once thrived on whispered cruelty. Her experiences had unveiled a crucial lesson: the power of standing up not only for oneself, but for others who might be suffering in silence. In moments of reflection, Mira thought about how easily one's reputation could be tarnished by misunderstanding and envy, yet how restorative honesty could be. Her story was a testament to the human capacity to rise above injustice, to rebuild what was broken, and to turn adversity into something beautiful and meaningful. She had also come to understand that true strength doesn't mean the absence of pain or vulnerability, but the courage to face them. Humiliation no longer held the power to cripple her. Instead, it became the soil from which her growth blossomed. Resilience wasn't about being unshakable, but about bending and bending again until she stood taller than before. Mira's friendships deepened. Her circle of support a reminder that connection is a healing balm amid life's storms. And even when memories of past trials flickered in the quiet moments, they reminded her that survival was only the beginning. For what truly mattered was the choice to thrive. Her story was no longer one of defeat, but of transformation. She had learned that sometimes our most painful experiences are the ones that teach us the indispensable truths: that forgiveness is freedom, that expressing vulnerability is strength, and that compassion can turn even the darkest chapters into beacons of hope. If you ever feel crushed beneath the weight of unfair judgment, silence, or scorn, take heart. Your worth is never dictated by those who fail to see your light. Like Mira, you have the power to rise, to heal, and to shine anew. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button. See you in our next story.